This is Amplify You, the podcast about you discovering your message and broadcasting it to the world. If you're a coach, author, or speaker, you'll want to tune in. If you're looking for the best return on your time investment to get your message out to the world in a bigger way, we're giving you full access and behind the scenes look of how we're running our podcast, how our clients have found success, and what you can do to launch your podcast today. The world needs your message. I'm Michelle Abraham, the host. Join my family as we unleash your unique genius and find the connections you need to launch your adventure today. Join us and let's get amplified. Hello, Amplify You. Michelle Abraham here, your host, and I am here today, so excited to bring to you another great interview. Today's Behind the Mic interview is with podcast host of Forever in Flow podcast, Eli Adelson. So Eli, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle.
You're welcome. Let's tell everyone a little bit more about Eli. So Eli is also the co-founder of the Forever in Flow, and he's a facilitator. He's a co-founder of the P&H Co. And Eli built the company up to a high six-figure business while traveling the world, which is all of our dreams. So we're going to dive into that today. I'm really excited to talk to him about that. He lived abroad in Europe and Asia, and he did that while he was finishing his degree. So that's really cool. Not everyone works, and not everything works out perfectly. He lives a life most people dream of, and now passionately helping others to live in flow so they can experience more synchronicity, more success, more joy, more often in both business and life. And I love that, Eli, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So I would like to just start with, tell us about how you became able to travel around the world, getting educated, and while running a six-figure business. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So that's a huge story to start with. I used to work as a painter, a contract painter, painting dorm rooms for a private school. And then, so I just saved up some money and decided to take a trip. And that's basically the first time that I got a chance to travel. Unfortunately, it was really short-lived and I had to come back straight away for some family issues. So then there was a break. That was at 18 years old. And there was a break for like 2 years until 20 years old. And I started doing this program in high school where I would go to community college and basically take college courses. And so I had done that for the last 2 years, year and a half of high school, and had that. And then I tried to travel, didn't work out, decided to go back to school. I didn't really know what to study because there's just so much going on. And so I transferred to another school and did way too much partying and dropped out. Then kind of decided that I needed more direction in my life. So we put together this self-study program of like business and leadership programs and that, like Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Keith Ferrazzi, I think that's his name. And I basically stayed in my room for like 6 months and studied, and then finally decided that it was time to go and do something. So I wanted to do something really far out there and just get so far out of my comfort zone. So I decided to travel to Japan because the culture is opposite, the language is completely different, and it's still a safe place where I can walk around and not really have to worry about anything, versus some other countries might not have the same appeal in that sense. Mm-hmm. And so I just went to Japan, didn't really have a plan at all, and started traveling around. And then I started to notice things that would just, like, things would just work out for me without me seeming to do anything. And this was the beginning of getting into flow. Like I had a friend who was doing a study abroad there. So I met up with him, met some of his friends there. And this was in Tokyo. And then I went to Kyoto, and then randomly I saw them on a bus. Like we just happened to be on the same bus in the city. And when we started talking, and it came up that whenever I got to a train station, whenever I got to a new city, there was always somebody there to help me out and that I could speak English with, and then could direct me and tell me the best things to do and the places to go. And when I told them this, they just kind of like looked at each other and like, that never happens. And this was in what, like 2008. And so things are a little bit different now in Japan. But they just were so confused that, like, why has this happened? They've been living in Japan this whole time, and they've done trips, and they've never heard of anything like that happening. And so kind of subtle things like that to started working into flow. And then the traveling thing just kind of took off, and I decided I really didn't want to be in the US. So I decided to go to Thailand and study there. And I did an online degree. I finished up. University of Massachusetts had a program that I took, and so I was able to do that studying while living in northern Thailand and traveling around and taking all these motorbike trips, and then the little bits and pieces of flow and where we are now started to creep in. And it wasn't until later when I was able to actually identify them and piece them together. Wow, that sounds like quite a long story. So
yeah. That's awesome. I love it. I love how you caught the travel bug and you kind of was like, didn't work out the first time, but you went after it the second time. I know I have this similar kind of background as you. Were left living in Canada the day after I graduated high school, and I lived in Europe for a year and then backpacked around Europe. And then a tragedy happened where I had to come back to Canada for a little while, but that didn't stop me from traveling more and more. And so I love those little synchronicities that you're talking about, because it's interesting how when maybe you don't recognize it at the time, but when you look back, you can see all those kind of those lines that connect the dots. Like, had you not met that person at the train station that day, maybe you wouldn't have done X, Y, Z. Like, I think that's so interesting to go back and look at that. So when did you become like really passionate about flow and like just diving into learning more about it and how it works in your life?
That's more of a recent thing. I'd say within the last like 2, 3, 4 years, it is kind of when I started paying a lot more attention to it and doing it. Because I started to think like, why do all these synchronicities happen? And like simply being in the right place at the right time. Like I have friends who go out and travel and they have like the craziest stories of like nights out or like daytime things happening and like on edge, kind of dodgy, where like the stuff that you only read about. And then like whenever I was with these people, none of that stuff happened. And I mean, it kind of made me I don't know, it was a little bit disheartening, because I wanted to have some of these experiences as well, but I would just go out and like everything would be seeming like normal and nothing bad would happen, and we'd still have a great time doing stuff, but it wasn't like anything like crazy, so to speak. You know about travel stories.
You weren't being chased down the street by Italians yelling "Ciao Bella, Ciao Bella."
No.
That happened to me in Italy a few times.
and I mean, that's a little bit too crazy for me anyway. I think there's a line like, but yeah.
I remember seeing my first gun in Rome, and there's a guy walking down the street just kind of mixed in with our group, and he lifted up his jacket at one point, put his hands on his shoulder. I could see a gun. I was like, okay, we're out here. All sorts of crazy things happen when you're traveling, right?
Yeah, I don't really have those experiences though.
So that's interesting. So you didn't have any of those kind of crazy experiences because you were kind of in flow. So how can you explain that to our audience that maybe is like, what are they talking about? I don't get it. Maybe can you kind of share with us what that really means? Like, so if you weren't experiencing those things, it's because you were vibrating at a different level and experiencing more ease and flow in your life. And I'm not sure if I'm doing that justice, but maybe you could explain it a bit better for us.
Oh, you're definitely getting there. You're on the right track. So good job for that. So yeah, flow is both inner and outer alignment plus nature support. And if we want to take a little bit deeper, connection to source, but then that might be getting a little bit more esoteric and spiritual. So depending on the level that you wanted to take it to, that your listeners want to hear about, let's just stick with the inner and outer alignment. So that means and the connection to nature support. So that means that everything within you is aligned, like your mind's on the right wavelengths. There's like a lot of times in sports, you hear the analogy of someone being in the zone or on fire.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that. Then Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, he's also got a book called Flow, and he talks about flow being where you're so engrossed in something in your activities that it doesn't feel like work, it doesn't feel like anything, and like all concepts besides the activity that you're doing just kind of melt away. And so having that inner alignment where you're just so on point with that, and that outer alignment where the world outside of you seems to come together for you and work for you, that's what we want to define. That's what I want to define flow as right now. And then you get the added nature support, which means that like maybe for you, you're with a group of people in Rome and the guy just kind of walked by and said something, and someone else said something else, and he just moved on, and nothing ever happened out of that. That's the kind of the synchronicity that we want to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. We're like even just missing a train, but like for missing the train, and then something else great happened. Like there was something else that was external, like an external thing that also happened that just like, so it's with nature, we're not talking about like nature, like the rain and the clouds and those kind of things. We're talking about just other people in nature as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could also be rain and clouds, depending. It could be like you have some huge event on a day, and then it seemingly rains out of nowhere, and now you're forced to deal with it. But then because it rained, then this other opportunity or something else opened up that wouldn't have otherwise.
Right. I can remember my friends that, they were so disappointed when they saw the weather forecast. Their wedding was going to be outside, and it was supposed to be pouring rain, thunder showers that day.
Oh, no.
But just as we started walking down the aisle, it was one of the bridesmaids, and the sky just opened up and the clouds cleared, and it made for this beautiful rainbow behind their pictures. So it made for a really cool experience in there for the photography with the dark clouds and then the rainbow and the lighting in their pictures ended up being amazing. So that's one of those
awesome
ways that they turned out for in a good way, right?
Yeah, it can still be frustrating if you miss the train and then you have to wait an hour, 2 hours, however long for the other one, or if you miss your flight. I'm not saying that you always know when it works out for you, but usually there's something. There's times I've seen the train depart from the platform as I've been running up to it, and then had to wait like 2-3 hours for the next train, and that's what we mean by it's like not everything always works out. It's you still have to deal with issues of being a human and emotions and things like that. It's just if you can try to get past that in a way, it's like, okay, maybe it is actually working out for me. Then it can ease the situation a little bit more, and yeah, but definitely still be frustrating and all that.
I always feel like, if you missed the train, maybe you weren't meant to be on that train anyways, and maybe, the person you sit next to at the next train station has a message for you, or like there's an important conversation that happens, or maybe it gets you to your destination a few hours later in time for another encounter that was supposed to happen or something. I always think there's something more to it when you do miss something, or when you when you didn't quite catch the train, or you didn't catch the flight, or the light didn't turn green fast enough, or I don't know.
Right.
I always think there's something more to play there. I think that's cool.
Yeah, there definitely could be.
Yeah. So now tell us a little bit about your podcast. So Forever in Flow, it's relatively new. You just launched it in the last few months. Tell us about your podcast.
Yeah. So I thought it would be a great way with encouragement from multiple people, you included. I thought it'd be a great way to get content out there about flow and to reach a bigger audience, hopefully, and just to have this that's available to people. And I'm pretty impatient, and I say it in the first episode. So I don't like to really have long episodes. Mine are anywhere. I try to go around 10 or 15 minutes, which is nice because then if you got a short drive somewhere, you're running errands, you can put it on in the car, you can listen to it, and then you don't have to be overwhelmed by like some podcasts are 2-3 hours, or like Joe Rogan is crazy. I I look at his episodes and I don't even feel like I have the strength to turn it on and commit to that. And then we just talk about different aspects of flow and how it pertains to you personally, to things that you can do to get into flow. I've just recorded another episode a few days ago, and it's all about energy and how the subtle energies of you and the world around you can affect your flow, and gives you some things to do and to get back into flow if you feel off. So it's really exciting. It's a new project, and I'm still getting the hang of it.
Yeah, and you're doing great. I'm loving listening to your show, and also loved being a part of it, the making of it. And I think that, it's really cool what you like. There aren't any other shows that I know that are specifically all about flow. So what's your goal with the podcast for listeners, like to get out of it, like to know that flow exists even, or like have a deeper understanding of it? What's your hope with the podcast?
It's definitely to have a deeper understanding of it. I hope that if they're listening to it, they already know a little bit about flow at least. Mm-hmm. If not, that's amazing. And if you're hearing this, thanks for listening and giving it a shot. The goal is to help people get into flow more of the time, and ideally all of the time, and to give people tips, tricks, and little techniques to help get them back in flow if they're feeling off, because everyone has off days. It's not just like no one's superhuman that I know of anyway. Maybe they do exist, but I know at least I have off days, and for myself it's a good reminder to go back and to listen to the content and realize that there are things that you can do when you're not feeling optimal, and there are things you can do to help you feel even better and to get you in flow and to get the world on your side and working for you. And especially now with everything going on, people need to know that the world is on their side, and it can work for them if they allow it and if they let it.
Yeah, I like that. It's not working against us all the time. It can work for us and beautifully with us as well. So your podcast is Forever in Flow. And then from there, do you have any sort of programs or services that you're offering people to come work with you? What's the next step for your listeners?
Yeah, so there's a few next steps. They can go to takethisquiznow.com and they can take a quiz to see how in alignment and how in flow they are. And then they'll get some emails to help follow up and help get them in levels. And then if they want to, they can work with someone on our team doing one-on-one coaching or a group coaching program, Forever in Flow. I'm also, just before we start talking, I'm editing a book that's coming out, Forever in Flow. You can get on the waiting list and you can get a copy at foreverinflow.com and you'll be notified as soon as it's finished, hopefully soon. And then if they want to see anything else about us, about the company, they can visit peaceandharmonyco.com and they can see everything else that we're about and the peacemakers that we have and all these crazy contraptions that can help people feel better and basically help conquer any ailment that you have.
That's amazing. Let's dive into that a little bit, because our audience is probably like, what? Say what, Eli? What are you talking about? And so now, Eli, was this the business that you were running and growing while you were traveling?
Yeah. So I work with my dad.
Who's also been a guest on Amplify You here. So you can go back and listen to David's interview as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Basically, I just finished studying. I didn't know what to do. I was about to get into teaching English and was going to go that route. And he asked if I wanted to work with him, and it sounded a little bit better than doing the whole 8-hour day. So I opted for that, and just, I guess it's kind of been uphill or down. I don't know. It's been a journey since then anyway.
It's been a journey for sure. So how's that been working with your dad? I know people always ask, I started working with my brother as well at Amplify You at the beginning, and we parted ways, but in a good way. He had another business that was just exploding, and I will always be his sister and be at the dinner table with him. So no hard feelings there at all. We do miss him, but it's one of those things people always ask, like, how was that working with your, someone in your family? family.
Yeah. So I'm
journey,
sure,
like you said, it's a journey.
I'm sure you have a lot of experience. And some days it's really good. Other days are like, I don't, other days are other days. So just put it like that.
Mhm.
Generally, it's pretty good just because we know each other really well. We have a connection. We're on the same page and have similar goals for what the business is. And we try not to overlap too much. I've been stepping up more recently, and he's been kind of going to the side and focusing on his more his clients and whatnot.
Mm.
So it's a transition period now.
Yeah.
And my main goal is the whole forever and flow stuff. So some things are getting pushed to the side and they'll be brought back up later on. But yeah, it's definitely a journey.
It's always the evolution of business, right? And and working, and it's like that partnership, working together. So that's awesome. That it's really cool that you can work with your dad. I think that's something that's special, that not a lot of people get the opportunity to do that. And so, what was that like traveling while you were trying to work full time? Or full time, but working, not necessarily working full time. So you don't work the 8-hour days, but working while traveling. Was that a challenge, or was that easy?
It's
Well, we know what you're going to say. You were in flow, so it was easy.
Well, it still can be a challenge whether you're in flow or not. It's both. Yeah, I mean, it can be easy and it can also be quite difficult depending. For me, I found it's easy if I travel slowly. And I really like setting up somewhere, having a home base, and then taking trips to the side. Like that's I was based in Asia for the last on basically like 10 years now. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that was being stationary, being in one spot, and like having an actual normal life, and then taking trips outside of that. And that's what worked for me the most, because then I could still have a daily routine, a morning routine where I wake up, I meditate, I go to the gym, then I go to a cafe, a coffee shop, and work for a few hours, and then can come back and chill and still get to experience living abroad and the whole city aspects and the culture and the food and everything. Whereas when I found if I was moving constantly, like I've done 2-week trips where I'm moving a lot, mm-hmm. and I just didn't get any work done.
Yeah.
Like it was more exciting to travel and to have that experience and not to really think about work. And if I did work, it would just be, I couldn't imagine more than an hour, mostly just answering some emails and making sure that things are all right. But I always try to get things, like if we were going to launch something, I'd always try to get that taken care of and all queued up. And so then I could go and not have to think about it during a trip.
Yeah, because I wouldn't imagine like going from place to place, the Wi-Fi is, questionable here and there. But if you're set up as a base camp, that's really great. I did that when I was living in Switzerland, and we were like every weekend on a different trip or ski resort or different country, really, because Switzerland's so close to so many European countries. Right. It was an amazing way to see a lot of that continent. So I love that slow travel idea. And I can relate to the other side of it, where when I was in the RV, we were RVing with our family for a few months down through the US from Canada. And it was hard to get the work in because we were traveling all the time. And then and then I felt like we were always searching for Wi-Fi. And then we end up always at Starbucks because we can find Wi-Fi.
Right.
Yeah, it kind of took away from the traveling when you're trying to do both. So the slow travel seems to be a great combination. So over those 10 years, were you in different countries, or did you stay in the same country mostly, or same few countries most of that time?
Same few countries. Mostly I stayed in Thailand for about 6 years. And I lived in northern Thailand for 6 years. That's where I finished up my studying. Yeah. And then I started this project, and I stayed there for 3 years after starting this project. And I didn't take as many trips around there in Thailand. Mostly the trips that I would do would be like weekend trips around Thailand, or like taking a motorbike trip somewhere. Nothing, usually not so many international trips. Maybe a trip to Laos here and there if I had to renew a visa or whatnot. Mm-hmm. Or Malaysia, again, visa related, or see friends. And then most recently I lived in Malaysia for about 2 years. And there I took a lot of trips and had that as a jump off base. And I would go to Sri Lanka, Indonesia, and Thailand a lot because I still love it and still have friends there and whatnot. And just mostly all around Asia.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I love how the inner Asian flights are so inexpensive too. So it's like having that base camp there makes it so much easier to travel between all the countries there. My first experience in Asia was last year, just as we were starting this podcast, and I can't wait to get back there again. Now that the whole world is shut down, we can't go anywhere.
Yeah,
I'm sure, like you're like itching to go somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, where is your next trip planned to?
I don't want to build up my hopes right now, so I actually haven't. I've been thinking
of a timing question, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it's okay. I've been thinking about going to Mexico maybe for like a week or two, just because right now I'm in Southern California, and it's pretty close. And then I have a friend that I've not seen in, I don't know, like 10, 12 years or something like that. So I've been toying with that idea. Otherwise, I mean, I'd love to go back to Asia when that's open.
It's possible. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When the borders start opening up too, I'm sure I'll be back down in San Diego again, and hopefully going some other trips too. So until then, our travel bug has to lay low until we can travel again. But Eli, before I let you go, I want to thank you for spending this time with us today. We've learned a lot, and it's been really cool talking about flow and how people can get into flow, and really go check out Eli's podcast and listen to it, Forever in Flow. It's got tons of great little nuggets there to help you kind of get back into the space that you need to be in order to create that flow in your life and your business. And so, Eli, before we go, where else can we've talked about where finding you at your podcast, and then can you just repeat again the Peace and Harmony Co. website again, where we can find more information about you?
Yeah, it's just peaceandharmonyco.com. And that's the main website.
And the quiz one again. What was the quiz one?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Thanks for bringing that up. TakeThisQuizNow.com.
TakeThisQuizNow.com. And you can find out whether or not you're in flow or not. If you're not sure, if something Eli said today has spiked your interest, please go take that quiz and reach out to him. Let him know what your results were. And any last words, Eli, before I let you go?
I don't know. My mind just went blank there. Let's say no. Let's just say that it's a journey, and just be kind to yourself, and it's okay if you slip out of flow, if you slip into flow, and just recognize that you're on the right path, and the world's not against you.
I love that. The world is not against you. It's working with you. Just allow it to do that, right? Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Eli, and Amplify You family. Go out there this week, get in flow, and enjoy your week, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks again, Eli.
Thank you.